Imagine meeting someone who immediately captivates you. Like there's this undeniable pull, but everything you know about them, every logical red flag just screams, wrong choice.
Yeah.
How do you even begin to reconcile that irresistible attraction with all the warning signs flashing in your brain?
It's a truly universal dilemma, isn't it? That kind of fundamental human struggle where your heart pulls you one way, often towards, excitement or something new, while your head is just screaming for caution, drawing on everything you've learned, all the logical stuff.
Right. It's that tension between instinct and reason playing out.
Exactly.
In real time.
Absolutely. And that's the electrifying tension at the heart of our deep dive today. We're plunging into this really fascinating dynamic between two incredibly strong-willed individuals pulled directly from an audiobook transcript we've been looking at. And this isn't just a story. It feels like a masterclass in how attraction can override or at least intensely challenge these really deeply ingrained beliefs and reputations.
On one side, we've got Carter. He's a world-class hockey player, captain of his team, an NHL superstar, and, well, let's just say a man with a rather notorious Playboy reputation.
A very notorious reputation. And then on the other side, standing in really stark contrast, is Olivia. She's a high school teacher, someone who prioritizes deep emotional connection, stability, and genuinely despises the whole casual hookup culture that Carter basically, epitomizes.
So our mission today is to unpack their journey, right?
Yeah.
To really dissect the friction that gets created when these deeply ingrained ideas, these preconceived notions, past behaviors, and this almost impossibly intense chemistry just collide. Can a true lasting connection actually emerge from a situation that seems so, fundamentally impossible on paper?
Yeah, that's the core question. We'll be looking at how their feelings evolve, the very real, often kind of painful challenges they face, and those pivotal moments, the turning points that really test their resolve to either walk away or maybe lean into something profoundly unexpected.
And we'll be looking for those surprising nuggets of insight too, right? Those moments where the story flips what we expect, showing us something maybe deeper about human connection and that complex interplay of desire and fear.
Definitely. So where do we start? With the players themselves?
Yeah, let's get into it by first introducing our players, kind of diving into the archetypes they represent and the expectations that basically walk into any room with them.
Okay, sounds good. Let's start with Carter, the quintessential Playboy captain. His public persona isn't just well-known, it's like an established, almost institutionalized part of his identity.
Right.
He's described as the captain of our hockey team and one of the highest paid players in all of NHL history. Now, that level of fame, it means he can't even do something simple, like go to the grocery store without getting a phone number or a proposition.
Wow. So he has to use delivery services.
Yeah, exactly. It forces him to live this life kind of removed from ordinary interactions just to avoid the constant attention.
That's a staggering level of public scrutiny, isn't it? Like constant availability. It must mean almost every interaction he has outside his close circle is potentially, transactional.
It seems that way. And he's so upfront about his intentions, almost dismissive sometimes. He openly states he's not looking for a relationship.
Yeah, he asked that question, right? Why does every girl think they're going to find a boyfriend through a one-night stand?
Exactly. It shows this genuine frustration. It's not just a preference for him, it's like a policy.
And his friends reinforce it too.
Oh, totally. Those closest to him, almost with this weary affection, describe him as a man whore. And he doesn't really shy away from that label either.
No, he leans into it. He jokes about his palace of love, right? This condo he keeps just for hookups.
Yeah. And while he later tries to sort of soften that image, claiming it's where he takes his special friends, the underlying message is pretty clear. These relationships are transient, they're casual, completely commitment-free. It creates this undeniable barrier to anything real, anything deep.
But here's where it gets really interesting, and maybe our first deeper insight. Beneath that hardened, almost cynical Playboy surface, there's this acknowledged underlying void. Carter actually admits it himself about his past relationships. He says it's never really been about wanting so much as it's been about satisfying an urge, slapping a temporary bandage over a void.
He actually says void. That's pretty telling.
It really is. He articulates this emptiness. What does that tell us about that typical Playboy archetype, do you think?
Well, it suggests that his promiscuity isn't necessarily coming from an abundance of self-worth or just a pure desire for varied experiences. It sounds more like a coping mechanism, a way to numb something or distract from some deeper emotional emptiness. And that's a pretty common psychological pattern, actually. Superficial connections become like a shield against the vulnerability, the potential hurt that comes with real intimacy.
And for Carter, living this public life, maybe the risk of a genuine connection. The possibility of like public heartbreak is just too much.
It could be. And it's complicated because he holds this promise to his mom, apparently, not to let a love like his parents get away. So he does understand and value deep connection on some level.
But at the same time.
Right. At the same time, he expects never to find it. And even more tellingly, he seems to view that kind of profound love as a weakness, even a significant risk. That internal conflict is just central for him. He's actively avoiding the very thing he seems to have been taught to cherish.
Which brings us perfectly to Olivia, the resilient realist, who just stands in such stark contrast to Carter's world. Her core beliefs, her boundaries, they're incredibly firm, almost like a direct counter-narrative to his whole existence.
Oh, absolutely. She's explicitly clear, I don't do one-night stands, and she has a strict no sleepover rule.
And she emphatically says she doesn't want to be another notch in your bedpost or a puck bunny. These aren't just like preferences for her, they feel like non-negotiable principles.
Exactly. Her priorities just couldn't be more different from Carter's. She values deep, genuine emotional connection. She says, I am not interested in dating for the sake of not being alone, and I'm not interested in fucking just for the sake of feeling good.
That last part is really insightful, isn't it? The separation there.
It is. And she even keeps her battery-powered boyfriend in a drawer for physical release, which is, well, a pretty vivid illustration of her intentional separation of sex from emotion in casual encounters. This is not a woman who's going to compromise her values easily, and she definitely doesn't confuse physical release with, relational intimacy.
And her background really seems to solidify that grounded, disciplined approach. She played hockey for 15 years. That immediately tells you she's disciplined, probably resilient, knows how to stick to her principles, even under pressure.
Definitely. Plus, she's a high school teacher and described as broke compared to Carter, which instantly highlights a pretty significant class and lifestyle divide between them. She's not looking for a sugar daddy or some glamorous life. She seems to be building her own.
Right. And her desire for steady and sure over messy and scary, that feels like it comes from a really deep place, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems to stem from this deep-seated need for emotional safety, probably born from a life that prioritizes stability. And that's just a direct contrast to Carter's unpredictable, almost chaotic world of celebrity and fleeting connections.
The text mentions her family traditions too, like warm Christmases with her dad being particular about trees and spending time together.
That underpins her desire for that deep, stable relationship model, that sense of home, consistency, devoted affection. It feels foundational for her, and it's something utterly missing from Carter's bandage void approach.
And to protect that emotional safety, Olivia has some pretty effective defense mechanisms in place.
Oh yeah, her sauciness, as she calls it, is her best defense mechanism. She uses sarcasm, bluntness to push people away, especially when she's feeling vulnerable or confronted. It's like a verbal shield.
Almost an offensive strategy to keep distance. And then there's that quirk, the snorting, when she's amused or challenged.
Right, which Carter, surprisingly, finds oddly endearing.
It's funny how those little things work.
It is. That snort is fascinating because while the sauciness feels like a calculated defense, the snort seems totally uninhibited, authentic. It's in a little chink in her armor, hinting at the real person underneath the protective layers.
Yeah.
And it's probably exactly those tiny, unexpected moments of vulnerability and authenticity that make her so compelling, especially to someone like Carter, who's used to a very curated, maybe artificial reality. Her sarcasm is like a way to control social distance, test boundaries, maybe even preemptively strike against perceived threats to her emotional safety. It's a sophisticated way of saying, stay back.
And so, okay, we've got these two very different people set on very different paths, each with their own complex defenses and voids. How do they even cross paths? It's this unlikely meet-cute that, well, like these things often do, sets everything in motion.
Right. Carter's just dismissed some woman named Lacey at a bar, clearly in his usual mode, and then he spots Olivia. She initially has the sort of lost puppy look, apparently, but that quickly gives way to her quick wit, her directness.
And Carter is immediately captivated. He notes how she drains nearly half of it in one long pull like it's her day job. Just an image of someone totally unconcerned with appearances.
Exactly. She's not like the other women who typically, throw themselves at him. This immediate sense of difference, this nonchalant authenticity, it just piques his interest. It's not just how she looks, it's her whole vibe that challenges his assumptions.
Which leads to that very public provocation that really sets the stage for their dynamic. Carter, used to getting his way, makes a bold move to approach her.
And Olivia's reaction is just chef's kiss.
It's amazing. She says, "You don't know who I am, do you? Trust me, I know exactly who you are." And he asks, "Who's that sweetheart?" And she just snaps back. Carter Beckett, captain of the Vancouver Vipers, and you can take that sweetheart and stuff it up your ass. I mean, what a response. That is absolutely not the kind of reaction Carter gets. It instantly sets her apart from every other woman he meets. The text even says he literally chokes on his beer.
Well,
he's not just surprised, he's genuinely flustered.
And what's fascinating there is how quickly she cuts through his usual charm, his celebrity status, his entire persona. She doesn't just know who he is. She seems to despise what he represents, or at least what she thinks he represents.
Right.
This directness, this refusal to be impressed, it's utterly disarming for Carter. He's used to women falling at his feet, not telling him where to stuff his sweetheart. It forces him into this rare moment of genuine reaction instead of his practiced cool.
And for a guy who carefully manages his narrative.
Yeah, for him, this spontaneous, unfiltered rejection is like a shock to this system. It definitely piques his competitive nature, not just his physical attraction.
And the collision doesn't stop there. It continues right into his hockey world, very publicly. On the ice, Carter makes this grand gesture, dedicating a goal to Olivia on the Jumbotron.
Oh my God. He tells her, "I dedicated it to you," which, as you can imagine, causes her apprehension and makes everybody around me started wondering who I was. He just throws her into his public high-stakes world, whether she was ready or not.
He totally escalated the public nature of their, well, not yet connection.
Exactly.
That public declaration, it feels like a dual-purpose move. It's partly a power play, maybe revealing Carter's impulsive nature and immediate obsession, but it also kind of reveals his emotional immaturity, maybe.
How so?
Well, he's used to getting attention, right?
Yeah.
And now he's just channeling all that attention onto her, forcing her into the spotlight she clearly doesn't want. It instantly raises the stakes and probably makes her even more wary. It sets up this really precarious situation for Olivia, who values privacy and authenticity over public spectacle.
And then there's the infamous beer pong battle.
The beer pong. Yes, this is such a pivotal scene. Olivia, even though she's described as birthday girl wasted, manages to beat Carter 3 times in a row. Now, you have to remember, Carter Beckett doesn't lose, especially not at something like beer pong, a game where his ego and competitive nature would be fully invested, you'd think.
Totally. And her triumphant line, "How does it feel to lose, big boy?" really marks this turning point in their power dynamic. She's not just beating him at a game, she's subtly, or maybe not so subtly, chipping away at his whole self-image of invincibility.
And it absolutely captivates Carter even more.
Yeah, this loss for Carter is transformative. And it's less about the actual game and more about the symbolic defeat, right? His internal reaction, "the last thing I've done is lost," suggests his competitive nature is intensely piqued, but now it's redirected.
How so?
Well, his pursuit of Olivia seems to stop being about just a casual hookup and instead becomes this challenge, one he's determined to win, but maybe more on her terms, not his usual ones. It forces him to approach her as more of an equal, a competitor, rather than just another conquest.
And his friends notice the shift too.
Oh, they totally confirm it. They note that he's been hung up on you since day one, singing nonstop, grinning like an asshole. He's clearly smitten, completely out of his usual element, and his typical Playboy tactics are just not working.
So this is the moment the chase becomes more than just physical.
Yeah, it feels like it becomes intellectual and emotional, too.
Okay, so with the challenge accepted, Carter's usual game plan completely derailed, we start to see some pretty significant shifting tides. Feelings start to develop, and, well, conflict inevitably grows. Carter's behavior starts changing in really unexpected ways.
Profound ways, actually, deviating significantly from his established patterns.
What's the first big one?
Well, right after Olivia turns him down for breakfast after their first meeting, he admits he didn't hook up with her, though, which is weird. For Carter, the weird isn't just about missing out on a casual encounter. It's about breaking this deeply ingrained habit, right? A fundamental part of his identity. It's a really significant first step away from his usual pattern of immediate gratification.
That's huge for him. It shows maybe a new level of self-restraint, even respect, and then instead of his infamous Palace of Love condo.
Right, instead of the hookup condo, he invites her to his actual house, his personal space, his sanctuary. And he makes a point of it, telling her, "You're the first woman I've ever had to my house who hasn't been a family member or a friend's girlfriend."
Wow. And he promises no funny business.
Yeah, and offers to order her an Uber home. It really indicates this willingness to genuinely respect her boundaries. These aren't subtle shifts. They feel like deliberate, conscious choices to show Olivia he's fundamentally different with her.
And this deliberate shift is then backed up by these increasingly sweet, thoughtful gestures, especially at that tree lighting event.
He brings her cinnamon buns and cheesecake, remembering these small details about her preferences, and talks her into getting her face painted, which is such a childlike, innocent kind of activity.
Yeah.
And his physical comfort with her, putting his arms around her when she shivered, it showcases this protective, nurturing side that's completely at odds with his public persona. These are like small acts of domesticity almost, of genuine care that signify a deep departure from his usual detached interactions.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The jealousy. It becomes palpable, like this raw, undeniable emotion.
Oh, yeah. When Garrett, or Adam, his own teammates, even just touch Olivia, Carter's internal monologue screams, "I briefly thought about decapitating my right winger."
Whoa.
Right. This is an entirely new, almost primal emotion for him. It's a clear sign his feelings are moving way beyond casual attraction or just a challenge. It's this possessiveness that seems to stem from a genuine, burgeoning emotional investment.
And his friends pick up on it immediately.
Of course. They know his usual patterns inside out. They point out his obvious crush. And maybe even to his utter surprise and discomfort, he reluctantly admits, fuck me sideways, he might be right.
That's a huge internal shift.
It's crucial. A moment of self-awareness where he moves from just wanting to win Olivia to genuinely liking her, an emotion he doesn't seem to know how to process or manage within his existing framework. He's acknowledging a vulnerability he's spent years actively avoiding.
Okay, now let's flip back to Olivia's internal conflict during this time, because despite Carter's changing behavior, her fears are incredibly real, and they're deeply rooted in his notorious past.
Absolutely. And the big revelation about his condo downtown for easy access to fuck after your games just hits her hard.
Right. Because this information doesn't just inform her, it confirms every single one of her preconceived notions and deepest fears about his past. It solidifies that Playboy image she's so determined to avoid.
And her reaction is this volatile mix of fury and something else entirely. She's thinking of kicking his ass, which totally conveys her intense anger and that feeling of betrayal. But the source also notes Carter is afraid and amused.
Afraid and amused. That's an odd combo.
Isn't it? It captures her intense anger, but also his surprising vulnerability in that moment. Like, he's not defensive, he's almost intrigued by her fury. It hints at this unusual dynamic where her anger isn't entirely unwelcome. Maybe it's even refreshing to him because it's so authentic compared to what he usually gets.
But here's the real push and pull.
Yeah.
Despite her strong convictions, despite her fury, Olivia finds herself undeniably drawn to him, completely against her better judgment.
Yeah, she confesses, "I don't know why it feels nice when he touches me, or why I'm constantly drawn to his wide, goofy grin." She's intensely vulnerable here, admitting she's afraid if he gets me alone for too long, I'll let him come knocking on the walls that are definitely not sturdy enough to keep him out. That's such a powerful metaphor for her carefully constructed emotional defenses.
And her body's reactions are betraying her rational mind. It's that classic conflict, head versus heart.
Totally. She acknowledges, quite candidly, "My lady bits are excited," my vagina rubbing her metaphorical hands together because she thinks she's getting some tonight. This raw, honest, internal battle between her principles and her undeniable physical and emotional attraction is just this central, almost visceral theme throughout their early interactions. She's fighting herself just as much as she's fighting him.
And it all builds up to that climactic first kiss on New Year's Eve, right at midnight.
Yes, it's spontaneous, powerful, probably fueled by the whole intoxicating atmosphere. Carter takes her face in his hands, and she recounts, "I swear I hear her heart thumping 5 Chaz. My thumb skims her lower lip, her eyes flicker. Can I 4, 3, 2, 1, yes."
Wow.
It isn't just a physical act. It signifies the surrender to the overwhelming chemistry, right? A momentary suspension of all their internal and external barriers.
But it's definitely one with underlying anxieties for Olivia.
Right.
A leap into the unknown.
Absolutely. It's a moment where the dam breaks, temporarily overriding all this internal and external barriers. The countdown heightens the tension, building to this inevitable moment of passion that neither of them, despite everything they've said, seems able to resist. But, as we know, a kiss, no matter how powerful, doesn't just erase past behaviors or deep-seated fears.
No, if anything, it can sometimes amplify them.
Precisely.
And those fears, those past demons, they come rushing back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the immediate aftermath. The doubts, the profound insecurities, and the really difficult conversations that follow that New Year's kiss.
Okay. So the morning after, Olivia's initial panic at being naked is quickly overshadowed by this devastating, very public blow.
A tabloid headline.
Yeah, she sees it on Carter's phone. "New Year's same! Carter Beckett's 12 hottest conquests and what we can expect of him this year." This isn't just some random article. It's like a direct assault on her self-worth. It triggers her deepest insecurities about public heartbreak and the impossibility of comparing herself to this long, curated list of stunning women.
Her internal thought is just crushing. I can't compete with that, not even in my own head. It perfectly captures that feeling of utter inadequacy, public humiliation. It's not just about him and his past anymore. It's about her and her future heartbreak being played out on this public stage.
Yeah, it's brutal. And she flees immediately. Just can't process the pain.
And Carter's reaction to her fleeing is one of raw, uncharacteristic desperation. He's shouting, "I'm shouting again and I hate it. This girl owns me for some fucking reason and I refuse to let her make the wrong decision for both of us."
This is not the cool, detached playboy we met earlier. This is a man losing control, utterly consumed by this woman.
And then he confronts her fear head on, doesn't he? He says, "Stop pretending like you aren't scared out of your mind right now. Like that hasn't been the only thing holding you back this entire time." He just cuts right through her defense mechanisms.
And then, crucially, he admits his genuine feelings. He states it plainly, "I like you, and you said you like me too." This is such a stark departure from his usual casual approach. He's laying his true emotions bare, acknowledging this mutual attraction that goes way beyond the physical.
Which leads directly to the core conflict that's been simmering all along.
Yeah.
That profound clash between trust and reputation.
Exactly. For Olivia, Carter's past isn't just history. It's this living, breathing narrative that she fears will define their future, no matter what he says now.
Absolutely. Olivia tries to explain that her no isn't really about his intentions now, which she might actually be starting to believe are sincere. It's about her fundamental inability to trust his commitment, given his notorious history. She's scared to fall for someone who controls his own narrative, and that narrative screams fuckboy.
That's blunt.
It is. The sheer public nature of his past makes her fear of being just another story in his ongoing saga almost unbearable. She wishes she could overlook everything else and jump right in. But I don't know how Carter, because when I look down, there's not a single part of me that can see the ground.
Wow. That image of not being able to see the ground, it's such a powerful metaphor for her need for stability, for safety, for something steady and sure instead of messy and scary. It highlights that deep-seated need for emotional safety above all else, something his reputation just completely undermines.
And Carter, for his part, he admits it, right? He acknowledges his past and reputation are a huge hurdle, basically a self-inflicted wound. And then he makes this truly profound confession to her, stripping away all the pretense.
Yeah, this is a big one. He says, "If I only had sex with people I cared about, I'd be losing my virginity tonight at the age of 27.
Wow, that's a bombshell admission for him, isn't it?
It really is.
For a man whose entire public persona is built around his sexual conquests, to admit that every single one of those encounters was devoid of genuine care, that's a level of raw vulnerability that just redefines his character.
It really demonstrates the depth of his feelings for Olivia and how profoundly different she is to him. She's not just a challenge or another conquest. She's the person who has forced him to confront the emptiness of his past.
So he desperately wants her to consider giving me a shot, consider me that's all I want, all the chance with you. It's this plea for her to look past the tabloid headlines and see the man he is with her, the man she's kind of revealing him to be.
Yeah, it's a pivotal point where he doesn't just acknowledge his past, but he articulates just how much she has changed his perspective on intimacy and connection. He's asking for a leap of faith, not just from her, but also maybe from himself, to believe that he actually can be different.
It's a radical reevaluation.
Absolutely. This kind of admission, especially from someone like Carter, shows that. He's essentially saying, everything before you was just a performance. With you, I want something real.
Okay, so with all this raw emotion, uncertainty, and that bombshell confession just hanging in the air, both Carter and Olivia turn to those closest to them, right? Seeking guidance, clarity, validation.
Yeah, they both need some perspective. For Olivia, it's her friend Kara who offers this really pragmatic yet insightful approach. She suggests making a simple likes and dislikes list about Carter.
Sometimes the simple things work.
Totally. And this exercise turns out to be incredibly revealing. It helps Olivia process her subconscious attraction to Carter's proud, charismatic, confident qualities, traits she'd normally associate with the exact kind of men she tries to avoid.
And the likes list for Carter is surprisingly long and heartfelt, especially given her initial reservations. She notes, he makes me laugh a lot. He's kind of a big goofball. He makes me feel good about myself. He's painfully honest. And I like the way he smells and the way he plays with my hair.
And then the kicker.
And when he looks at me, it's like, it's only me and him. That last part, it's like it's only me and him, feels so profoundly intimate. It indicates this deep sense of connection that somehow cuts through all the noise of his celebrity.
And what's truly telling is that the list is full below the heart and oddly empty below the frowny face, indicating Olivia's true feelings, despite all her rational fears. Kara's simple advice helps her confront the reality of her attraction, that it's rooted in genuine qualities she admires and a connection she feels, not just some fleeting physical pull. It's a pragmatic way of accessing those deeper emotional truths.
Meanwhile, Carter's friends stage what sounds like an intervention of sorts. They recognize this profound shift in their notoriously commitment-phobic buddy.
Yeah, Emmett, his best friend for nearly a decade, offers some really profound insight. He acknowledges Carter's transformation, saying, "This right here is out of character for you, at least. When it comes to women, you've been my best bud for nearly 10 years, and not once have you pursued anything serious."
That perspective, from someone who knows him so well, must be crucial. It validates that this isn't just another fling for Carter.
Exactly. And Emmett totally gets Olivia's side, too, saying, "I understand why she's afraid, and at the same time, I can see how much you like her." It's balanced.
Yeah, it's crucial because it's coming from someone who knows Carter intimately and can see the genuine, unprecedented shift in his behavior. It's not just Carter admitting it. His inner circle is confirming it.
And Adam, another friend, delivers some straight talk, too, giving concrete examples. "That's why I haven't left the bar with a single woman lately," and reminds him he bought Olivia cinnamon buns and cheesecake and talked her into getting her face painted with you last week.
Right, undeniable proof of his changed priorities and actions. It confirms his feelings for Olivia are translating into real behavioral changes.
And then there's Hank, Carter's mentor figure, who really pushes him. Hank tells him, "The Carter Beckett I know fights for what he wants and doesn't take no for an answer. Then get your ass in gear and get your woman."
It's not just about pursuing her with his old tactics, though, is it?
No, it feels like it's about pushing him to fight for her differently, with genuine intent, with the same drive he applies to his hockey career. It's like a call to action for a new kind of game plan. This external validation and encouragement are vital for Carter, who's clearly navigating uncharted emotional territory. He's being told to lean into this new, unfamiliar side of himself.
And Olivia also seeks guidance from a profoundly trusted source, her mom.
Yes, who knows her better than anyone. The call to her mom is so relatable because it's this moment of just utter vulnerability, a confession of all these conflicting emotions. Olivia confesses she met someone.
And her mom's response is immediate, right? Perceptive.
Oh yeah, cuts right to the chase, confirming her daughter's deepest fears without even needing it stated explicitly. "Oh honey, you have a boyfriend." Then later, "Oh, and you're scared she's not asking, she's telling." Her mom knows her like the back of her hand.
And she immediately validates Olivia's deep-seated fears about falling in love and being heard, asking, terrified, "What scares you the most that I'm going to fall in love with him?" Love you, Mom lasts.
Yeah, that maternal wisdom offers Olivia comfort and understanding. It confirms that her fears are natural and understandable, not something dismissible or irrational. It provides this foundational emotional support that allows Olivia to process her feelings without judgment. So both characters are getting this crucial support from their trusted circles, helping them navigate their complex emotions and the very real obstacles their different worlds present.
That external perspective feels essential for them to gain the courage to maybe move forward.
Definitely.
Okay, so with the support of friends and family and a clearer, if still very conflicted, understanding of their own feelings, Carter and Olivia begin to establish this kind of new normal. They attempt to build trust through proper dates, clear boundaries, and of course, navigating that ever-present, almost overwhelming temptation.
Right. Their first slow date happens at a coffee shop, which is a setting that's a far cry from a loud bar or a private condo, right? Immediately signaling a different intention.
And Olivia initiates the conversation about boundaries.
She does. She lays out her terms clearly and directly. They need proper dates and stuff where you can learn to trust me. And she's very clear, stating pointedly that kissing doesn't qualify as slow. She's setting ground rules, making sure that physical intimacy doesn't outpace emotional development.
And Carter, surprisingly, for the man he was, he accepts these terms. But there's still that playful banter, right? That undeniable sexual tension is still an undercurrent.
Oh, absolutely. He cheekily says, "You have little legs. It makes sense that you think everything I do is fast." And Olivia, with her trademark sauciness, retorts, "You can work on earning your tongue in my mouth."
That exchange perfectly showcases their continued potent chemistry while they're trying to firmly set these new boundaries. It's like a dance between desire and discipline.
And crucially, amidst this playful tension, Carter explicitly states, "I really like you," which is simple, but a profoundly meaningful declaration from a man who's avoided such sentiments his whole life, it seems.
And Olivia responds with genuine warmth. "I really like you too, Carter. Thank you for being patient with me and giving me some time. This isn't just about physical attraction anymore. It's this acknowledgement of a growing emotional connection and a mutual understanding of the need for patience and respect, a foundational step for building trust.
But then comes the gala, where their newly established boundaries are put to the ultimate test.
And the visual contrast between them is striking. They both look incredible. Carter in his three-piece midnight blue suit, the epitome of polished sophistication, and Olivia in a skin-tight white lace dress, both elegant and alluring.
Yeah, but beneath that glamorous surface, Olivia's internal turmoil is just palpable. She thinks, with this mix of exasperation and raw desire, I think I need to mount that man in a bathroom.
Despite her unwavering desire to be in control, to maintain her carefully constructed emotional walls, she feels herself unraveling, falling apart at the seams. The intensity of their attraction is almost overwhelming for her, constantly battling against her resolve for that slow, trusting progression.
And the public setting of the gala, all the eyes on them, the heightened sense of occasion, it just amplifies the stakes for her. It makes her internal battle even more fierce. It's like a test of her willpower against pure, unadulterated chemistry.
And the jealousy from Carter returns with a vengeance, proving just how deeply invested he's become. Garrett, one of his teammates, deliberately dances with Olivia just to provoke Carter.
Right, and Olivia notes Carter's internal reaction. He's currently deciding which of my body parts he should remove first. This just further highlights Carter's intense, almost primal feelings for her. It's a possessiveness stemming from genuine attachment, not just fleeting desire. He is no longer detached. He is emotionally present and fiercely protective.
Their flirtatious exchange during this scene is fascinating too, this blend of boundaries and temptation. It's like a masterclass in dynamic tension.
Yeah, when Carter approaches her, she admits, I think you missed me, and I think you bragged about last night to your friends, subtly acknowledging his growing attachment and maybe his desire to claim her in some way.
And then their conversation escalates, with him asking if she wants to be punished by him.
And her nearly begging him to fuck me on the bathroom sink. It perfectly showcases their potent chemistry, just clashing head-on with their stated desire for slow. It reveals this raw, almost desperate tension between their rational minds and their overwhelming physical and emotional pull.
So after the gala, with that intense push and pull threatening to just break Olivia's resolve, she makes the decision. She needs to escape the overwhelming temptation.
Yeah, her internal monologue reveals her frantic thought. I need to go home before I accidentally beg this man to fuck me on the bathroom sink. She's trying desperately to hold on to her resolve for that slow pace, to maintain control over her body and emotions.
But Carter at this point has kind of had enough of slow. He recognizes that their connection is just too potent for these measured steps.
Exactly. In the car ride home, he pulls her into this passionate kiss, a real declarative act, announcing, "Fuck slow," he growls. "I can't do slow, not with you, God. I don't want slow. I want to crack this whole thing wide open."
Wow. That's a profound moment of vulnerability for him, isn't it? Shedding his guardedness, admitting his inability to maintain his usual detachment with her.
It really is. And Olivia's internal thought mirrors his raw desire. The chemistry, the passion, the fire, I want to give him all of me and take all of him. This raw honesty marks a pivotal moment where both characters seem to drop their pretense, admitting the undeniable depth of their connection.
And here's where we get that glimmer of hope, right? A powerful final gesture that speaks volumes about Carter's true feelings, maybe more than any verbal declaration could. Despite his Playboy past, despite all their difficult conversations and the intensity of the gala, Carter demonstrates this profound understanding of Olivia in a way maybe no one else has.
Yes. As she's leaving, and despite that passionate moment, he dashes back to the limo and returns with this small blue box.
And inside is a maple pecan cupcake with bacon crumble.
And a note saying, "I got you the most bacony one, so Carter." It's such a small, almost unassuming gesture, yet its significance feels immense.
It really does. This is so simple, yet incredibly thoughtful and personalized. It connects directly back to their very first interaction, right? With the Oreos and Olivia's endearing snort, this small, specific detail that he not only remembered but acted upon.
Exactly. It shows Carter's growing understanding and consideration for Olivia's unique, quirky preferences, moving way beyond the grand, public gestures of his past. It's this sweet, intimate counterpoint to his whole Playboy reputation.
It signals a true potential for genuine connection and deep attentiveness. It proves he's not just saying he's changing, he's actively, mindfully being different.
It indicates that he is truly seeing her, beyond the challenge or the conquest. He remembers the small details, the things that make her uniquely Olivia. It's a gesture of care, of quiet understanding, of specific appreciation, not just some broad stroke of desire.
It's a powerful symbol that maybe he's ready to shed his old identity for something real and deeply personal.
And it also suggests that true intimacy isn't always found in the grand declarations, but often in the thoughtful recognition of those small personal details.
And that wraps up our deep dive into the complicated and intensely magnetic connection between Carter and Olivia. We've followed them from that initial rejection and stubbornly held boundaries to unexpected, undeniable attraction and the raw vulnerability of their evolving feelings.
Yeah, Carter, the celebrated hockey star, truly found himself challenged by Olivia, who refused to be just another conquest, forcing him to confront his own emptiness. And Olivia, fiercely independent and so wary of public heartbreak, found herself drawn to the very man her rational mind had warned her against.
Their story is such a fascinating push and pull, isn't it? A constant battle between who they were and who they might become together. It really leaves us with a compelling question, I think.
Which is?
Can a deep, genuine connection truly overcome a lifetime of ingrained patterns in public perception? Or will the shadow of Carter's past and Olivia's inherent fears always be too much to bridge that gap between Playboy and partner?
It's a classic challenge, isn't it? Can love truly change a person, or does it simply reveal what was always there, waiting to be unearthed beneath all those layers of defense mechanisms and public personas?
Definitely something for you to mull over until our next deep dive.
Yep.